we don't give directions up there. And right now, Hawaii, for example, there's a big fight to try and close Little Beach, which is one of the most popular beaches for the last 50 years. And it just got overpopulated. On weekends, they brought their drumming circles down, and nobody wore masks. And the parks director used the COVID excuse, close it down as a dangerous place because of the possibility of spreading the viruses. And they put fences up and signs up, and nudity is no longer allowed on the beach. Interestingly enough, it has nothing to do with the COVID, but he found that as the excuse to close the beach. Our popularity can be our undoing. So the answer is use your head when you tell the people that you found a nude beach. Be sure they're there for the right reason. Be sure they don't post it anywhere where it's going to attract a bazillion people. And that's kind of how we survive today.
Welcome to Jamie's Given Consent. The goal of the show is to introduce you to the people and ideas behind consent culture, empowering you with the tools to disrupt toxic powers and pursue healthy desires. Speaking of healthy desires, if you like this video and get something out of it, be sure to subscribe. The top video on my channel right now is all about nudism, which is of course the practice of actually being nude for everyday life and has little or nothing to do with sex or sex parties. Private communities for nudist families exist all over the United States, and the need for privacy comes from laws that prohibit public nudity. You may have also heard of nude beaches throughout the US, a couple in California being like Black's Beach in San Diego or Pirates Cove up in Avila Beach. But how can these nude spaces exist when laws like that are in effect? Today I'm joined by the founder of the Friends of Bates Beach, a Central Coast-based nonprofit organization that protects beaches for nudists. They advocate and interact with city council, law enforcement, county supervisors, and the Chamber of Commerce. Their $2 bill campaign gives them visibility with local businesses who are in the know. Their $2 bill campaign gives them visibility with local businesses who are in the know that the $2 bill came from a nudist. The Friends of Bates Beach also participate in annual beach cleanup, propose upgrades for the city, and carefully educate the public on needs for nude spaces. Thank you for joining me, Gary Mussell.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I said in my intro about nude spaces, these are not sexual spaces. It's spaces where people can actually just go and do their everyday life just without clothes on.
Correct.
So what does a day at Bates Beach actually look like?
Actually, it doesn't look any different than a normal beach, except that we're not wearing clothes. By the way, I apologize for my view today. We're taping this in the middle of January. It's cold, and nudists are nude whenever practical, and it's not practical today. I'm a little cold, so I put my shirt back on. So I don't want people to look at this and say, "Aha, where's the contradiction in this?" We're nudists, but we're not stupid. All right, to your question, beach looks just like everybody else's beach. People are on towels. There's a lot more sunscreen, perhaps. A lot of hats. Dark glasses, frisbee, a lot of swimming in the ocean. Occasionally there'll be volleyball. We haven't had volleyball at Bates for a while, although we're going to bring that back this next year, 2022. One thing that'll be different than a normal beach is there's no boob boxes. The quiet and tranquility of a beach is always in marked contrast to everything else. That the people who go there comment on that sometimes. We also have behavior guidelines on the beach. On a normal beach, you might see people being amorous or under a towel somewhere as a couple or other kinds of things going on. Nude beaches rarely have their own sense of morality. And we have guidelines. Those of us who wear the hats are beach ambassadors. We go through an actual course that is like a neighborhood watch, where we are empowered to be sure there's no lewd behavior on the beach, which kind of is contradictory. Most people think of beaches as sexual places to do all kinds of things. Must confess, I did that with my wife about 40 years ago, and it's really messy. And the sand gets in all places you don't want it to get to, and you'll never get it out. And you do it once, we go, okay, we've done that, never again. And I would caution that to all you people who have the fantasy, it's not worth it. Anyway, There are beach guidelines that we all try to follow down there. No intimate touching of private parts, even with permission on a nude beach. Obviously, sunscreen needs to be applied, but don't linger there. You'd be surprised how unsexual it is. We hardly ever see any erections from men because it just is not that arousing. People think that that's not possible, but it is. And when you get there, the comment I always get from people is, "Oh, now I understand." It's just think of it as a normal beach. Especially, if, I had a friend who told me once I got into it, they said if you really have that sense of arousal, just get in the water, and what goes up must come down, and that usually solves it. Or put a towel over yourself, and within a few minutes, nature takes care of itself. It's not a big deal. I think I maybe in 20 years I maybe seen two or three from other people, and they don't last long because it's that first impression, and then nothing, and then we can go back to enjoying ourselves.
Nice. Yeah, it's a really great experience. Like you mentioned, getting in the water here, it's super cold. So yeah, absolutely.
It is at base, except for maybe August, it gets up above 70. But
Yeah.
the beaches in this part of California are never really warm. Bates is really warm. Oh, not Bates, but Black's Beach in San Diego. And the further south you go, it's warmer. In Florida, the beaches there, Hulliver Beach is a wonderful nude beach there. And I was there in February a couple of years ago, and they were apologizing to how cold the water was, and it was like 85 degrees. I went, oh darn, I'm going to have to suffer with this. So everybody has their standards on this stuff, but usually the water up here in California is kind of cold, and that puts a chill on any amorous thoughts for sure.
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing about that. So, I think you kind of answered this, but I'll just specifically ask, like, can you end up at a nude beach, like, by accident? Like, what is it to get to Bates Beach to the nude section?
Actually, the first beach I ever went to was by accident. It was when I was 32 years old. I didn't have these wrinkles, and I had dark hair, and I weighed about 50, 60 pounds less. Um, um, those of you who are young watching this, hold on to your memories because the body doesn't stay looking like this for very long. But anyway, I digress. Um, we were looking for tide pools and just walked up the beach, and we came around a corner and there was a nude beach. It was like, oh my God, where'd this come from? A lot of people do find them by accident on the internet. The internet's not very accurate. A lot of it is very old information, 10 years, 20 years old, and some of those beaches are no longer there, or hot springs, or lakes or rivers. And so there are other places to go. I'll talk about that later on. I think you may ask me about that. There are other places you can go. But um, how do you get to Bates? Bates is one of the easier ones to get to. Most nude beaches are very remote. We don't want the hassle of law enforcement or people who don't think we should have such a spot walking up on us by accident and then making a big tissy about it. Bates is the exception. Bates has fairly good parking. It's at the boundary of Santa Barbara County and Ventura County. It's called Bates Beach because it's the Bates Road off ramp off the 101 freeway that takes you right there. Exit 83 for those of you who are looking to get there. Seriously, the parking is at North Rincon County Park. There's about 200 spaces. In the summertime, that fills up pretty rapidly. But it has a nice, easy ramp that takes you from the parking lot down to the beach. It's about a 2 mile long beach. Only a small section of it is clothing optional. The rest of it is where it's a wonderful surfing spot. One of the great world famous surfing spots is Rincon Point. And most people come down the ramp, turn to the left, and take all their stuff down and watch the surfers. The northern end of the beach is fairly deserted. In the summertime, it does fill in because it's the only spot you can go where you're not walking at other people's towels. But you get to the north. There's a certain spot about 1,500 yards up. There's a concrete landslide that has come down, and that is the officially approved start of it. It's where the beach kind of curves to the left, and we have about 1,000 feet there, and that's our spot. We're not supposed to wander off of it, or we can get a ticket. last year we actually did have a guy get a ticket because he didn't want to walk down that far, and he only went halfway down. And he stopped, took his clothes off, and they called him, and the police came down. They got a ticket, and I called him and said, "Do you know the spot?" And, "Oh, I was just didn't want to walk down that far." And he said, "I'll pay the fine." Okay, learned my lesson. And I told everybody else who said, "Oh my God, they're ticketing us." I said, "No, you be in the designated area, and I won't give a phone call." So he was a good example. I'm glad he did it because it reminded everybody where what the agreement is. It is a verbal agreement down there, by the way. It's not a legal agreement. I'll think my work with the government we'll talk about a little later on, but it's not protected free speech at all. The U.S. Supreme Court in 1992 had a ruling in Massachusetts that said a case that said that it's not protected by free speech and it can be regulated by state and county. That was a big blow to the nudist movement, but it just meant we had to now focus on local politicians, local counties, and their ordinances. Um, you have to realize that nudity in the eye of a politician is kryptonite. Nobody's going to ever approve a nude beach or nude beach ordinance for fear of the next election being called a child molester and a pervert protector and be thrown out of office. So we have to understand that's a political reality. So they're very happy to let us be there with tacit verbal approval. The police sign off, the county parks sign off, and they say just stay in your area. And if there's a complaint made, you will be the absolutely last action taken on that call sheet that day, if we have to. They have to walk. It's a 20-minute walk to get to our beach area. The last thing a policeman wants to do is get out of the car, walk down the beach 20 minutes, and give you a warning. If they're going to walk down that far, they're going to give you a ticket. So they don't want to walk that far at all. Because as the city manager of Carpinteria told us, if I have a car come down to give you guys tickets, he's down there for a half hour to 45 minutes. And that means a bank could get robbed up in town, and there's no policeman to go up there and stop the bank robber. And I'd rather have the bank robber taken than you guys. So we're not a very high priority, but somebody has to misbehave, or there has to be some incident or something, and that's the rules we've had since 2017, when the verbal approval was put in. And except for that one ticket last year, there's never been a ticket given down there. They come down once a year on a warning. Somebody who is new to the beach says, "Oh my God, there's nudists down there. My children," and make a big deal about it. And every once in a while, police will come down there and go, "Look, guys, just get dressed. I don't want to have to give you a ticket. Just consider this a warning." And we all go, "Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir." We all get dressed. And he walks away. And as soon as he's gone, we all get undressed again. And the day continues. And that's the game we all play. They know it. We know it. But the complaint has been satisfied. And he doesn't come back. And we're happy. Every once in a while, you have a gung-ho rookie who will come down there and try to be bad cop and make a big deal about it. And he'll stick around on the cliff above and look and be sure that we don't get undressed again. But we know the game. We have people. We look up, make sure there's nobody up there for a little bit. Sometimes we'll have somebody in the parking lot say, "Is the car gone?" "Yeah, the car is gone." Okay, and then we'll get undressed. So this whole dance we do, and this happens in almost every nude beach in the country. Just be aware that it's not just base. Everybody does that. So new people are nervous. They're always kind of looking over their head. "Oh my God, are the police up there?" Yes, they could be, but the odds are they won't. And just behave, and you'll be fine. And that's how we survive, and that's how we live. And we've been down there now for 5 years, and unofficially for decades before that. And all the local people who live there know it. They don't mind us being down there. The local regulars like us. They don't care. It's always the first person who comes down to base for the first time. He says, "Oh my God, oh my God." They're always the problem. So we have to be sure that we calm the situation.
You got into some of what I wanted to go with this about, like, how long have you been working on keeping this a safe space for nudists, and like what is involved in making that happen?
Well, it was before I had my beard and I had dark hair. As I said, I became hooked on beach nudity when I was about 32. I'm now 73, so it's more than half my life. I didn't expect that at the time. I expected it to be a one-off. It was my bucket list. I go down to the beach. I'd enjoy it. Okay, done that. And then I just love the feel of the water against my body as opposed to the bathing suit. I love not having to have sand in my crotch all day from being on the beach, because obviously when you're not in the suit, you can just brush it right off. And there are just so many other advantages of not having a wet, soggy bathing suit. I said, well, this is okay. This is more than I expected. Um, as far as a base is concerned, I joined Elysium Fields in Topanga when I was about 38 or 39 years old, and I stayed there till they closed. And about 2000, we had a bunch of Bates uh, beachgoers come up to the park and say, "You have to help us. You have to help us." The police just came down, swept through the beach, and gave us all tickets. And we don't want to go back there again. It turns out there was some lady who lived down at the point who had an absolute bug up her ass about nudity, and she called the police every single day. Even if we weren't down there yet, if she saw us in the parking lot, she'd make the phone call because she knew where we were going to go. And I wasn't down there at the time, but they played volleyball and had beer and all kinds of normal stuff down there. And they said, "You got to do something about it." And they had no contact with the city or the county or Parks Department or anybody. And because of that, they got shut down. They said, "We don't want to lose our beach." So they came to us, and I had a sympathetic ear, and I said, "Well, in the history of the country, once you lose a beach, you lose a beach." Because there used to be like a dozen beaches along Santa Barbara, Ventura, and LA County, and the ordinances put them all out of business. You just don't get them back. But as a courtesy, I'll see what I can do. And so it took a while to kind of figure out what we're going to do. Meanwhile, the beach was deserted, and the gangs came down. They put graffiti up on the hill, and on the barriers. There was more car break-ins in the parking lot. There was even a couple of cases of prostitution going on up in the parking lot. And the Parks Department actually put a trailer down there with a park ranger to kind of keep order, and he couldn't keep track of everything. And we finally went to the county supervisor and said, "Look, when the nudists were down there weren't any gangs down there because we were down there. Gangs don't like to do their drug dealing with witnesses. They like to go to nice deserted places. In fact, a lot of the drug panga boats that come up from Mexico today with all the opium and heroin from the cartels down there, they land in California at the most deserted beaches they can. There's been incidents up in the northern part of Santa Barbara County where they've come ashore with millions of dollars worth of drugs, and they actually had one of those at Bates. And I said, "Look, if we're there, they're not going to be there, and you saved the beach." And the guy said, "Good point. Let me see what I can do. Go down there, be discreet, be unofficial, and stay in your area, and I'll see what I can do." And we still hadn't done a formal agreement, but it took about 10 years. He went on to be the congressman, and he's been a good ally of us. I don't want to out him, but he actually doesn't mind being called an ally of the nude beach. That's Congressman Carvajal. He's been friendly. He's open-minded, and he's practical about this stuff. He knows we're all voters, and we his successor, Doss Williams, when he was running for office, I made sure I talked to him about this because I didn't want to lose that shield. And he said, "I don't see a problem with it. You got the beach ambassador program. You're behaving yourself. There hasn't been a ticket on the beach in years. And let's see what I can do." And it took a year or two. And he finally came back, saw me at a Chamber of Commerce function because we joined the Chamber of Commerce to get the chamber on our side and the local merchants back at our side, saying, "We used to have all of our nudists come up to your town after we were at the beach all day and eat in your restaurants, and we're not there anymore." And the answer was always, "We always wonder what happened to you guys. You guys were really cool." And I said, "Well, we can go back if you support us." So we finally got the chamber people, not officially, but unofficially, to say, "Yeah, you guys should be down there." They let us put our our brochures in their Chamber of Commerce rack. We were good members of the chamber for years and years, and finally they came back and said, "Okay, I've talked to the police chief. He won't go down except unless there's a complaint, a major complaint. I've talked to the Parks Department. They won't send a deputy down unless it's a major complaint. So you stay in this area, you police yourselves, and I think we're fine." That was in 2017. And that's when the rule came through. In the meantime, there's been all kinds of other things we've had to do. We want to preserve that relationship. So that means we have to get involved with elections to be sure people who are friendly to the beach get elected in the city council. At least people who don't oppose us, that just say, it's okay, don't ask me to vote for it, but I know you're there, it's okay. And that's kind of the relationship we have with the Carpenter City Council. We have 3 members of the Board of Supervisors who say the same thing. Don't ask me to vote for it, but I know you're there and behave yourself. The DA is not happy, but nothing ever, if there's no tickets written, the DA is never going to get involved. So that works out fine. The last couple of years, there's been a proposal to extend the California Coastal Trail from the northern end of Northern California down to Mexico. There's lots of it that have been built. It's a scenic hiking and biking trail that goes all the way down the coast where you got sea views all the way. But there's been a gap in southern Santa Barbara County, and they had a proposal to say, okay, we're going to put this trail above Bates Beach. And I said, well, I don't want 70,000 bike hikers, which is what their estimate was, looking down at the nudists down below. One, they'll complain and we'll be out of business. And number 2, I don't want to have a lot of perverts up there looking at us. Some of that was happening in the 70s and 80s. There hasn't been anything since we've come back, but we didn't want to rekindle that problem. So I got involved with the steering committee on it, convinced them that the cliff was unstable and they needed to set it back a bit from the edge of the cliff and put a fence up so nobody could get too close to the edge. Of course, my motivation was I don't want them to get close enough to look down at the sand and go, oh my God, look, there's nudists down there. So that they stay back, they can get their sea view, but they can't get too close. That was approved in the planning. This is like 2013, 2014. And that all went through the stuff. Then they found out that indeed the hillside above the beach is geologically unstable, and they had to change their plans and change the route. And we just had a hearing just this last week, final hearing of the Planning Commission. We've gone to hearings every 6 months or so for the last several years on it, as they change the route or improve the proposal. And they've moved the trail away from where the nude beach is. The bad news is that it's going to require that they take down some of the hill because it's geologically unstable. And so the hang gliders who love to use the beach too, they fly over us. They enjoy looking at us. We enjoy looking at them. And we decided that we didn't want to lose that culture. They had been there for years. So we took their side. Of course, a lot of what we want to do is build coalitions of friends. There's not enough nudists. I mean, there's several thousand in Santa Barbara County, but you always want to make friends politically as best you can. So we're friends with Heal the Ocean. We're friends with the Surf Rider, although the Surf Riders officially want nothing to do with us. And we decided to make friends with the Bike Riding Association and with the Hang Glider Association to get involved with where this beach path was. And just last Tuesday, they kind of threw the hang gliders under the bus. They said, we're the best route for us is to take part of the hill down and put the path up there, which means that there's a danger that the updraft of wind coming off the ocean won't hit that hill correctly anymore, and the paragliders won't be able to get enough updraft to safely fly. So we will have to see how that works out. We're sad about that. But we have gained a lot of new friends we would have otherwise not had, who think there's no problem with a nude beach. And that's how you stay in business. You build those kind of coalitions. And that's kind of what I've done. It costs too much to put a ballot proposition on. Somebody said, why don't you just put it on the ballot to approve a nude beach? One, you never know how the public is going to vote. They may be in favor today, but then some loud, highly financed person against the beach will talk about how we're corrupting their children and how we're going to be collecting every pervert in the county or the city or the country or whatever. And it's the old pool table in River City speech. And it was going to cost several $100,000, we figured, to come anywhere close to countering that. And we just didn't have that kind of money. So we said, okay, we can't put it on the ballot. And the politicians won't vote to have us have a regular beach. So the best we could do is have this unofficial, we'll let you have the beach, but don't cause a problem relationship we have with the politicians and the county and the city. And every couple of years, you have to go back through and reinforce that. I have lunch about every 6 months with the supervisors, the field deputies. We catch up on what's happening at the beach and issues we may have. The other issue we have is trash. We need to have some trash cans down there. The parks don't want to put trash cans on the beach. And so we're trying to get that so that people who have their dogs down there have a spot to put their dog poop. Right now, there's a lot of dog walking on that beach, and a lot of them don't pick up after their dogs, and that's the biggest pet peeve we have right now. So we want to try to get some trash cans down there. So that's one of my campaigns for 2022. But that's the kind of thing we have a conversation about. I tell that we're going to have volleyball so that if the calls come in, they can tell the person, oh yeah, we know about that. It's not a problem. They are practicing safe behavior, and so that we have them behind us when calls come in that we don't know about. And so that's kind of how we operate. It's not acceptable to some of the nudists to think that they want to be left in peace on their blanket to enjoy the beaches. They want to enjoy it. If they want to have lewd behavior, by golly, I have a free speech right, and I have to keep telling them no, you don't. And if you do anything like that, you could jeopardize it for everybody. So sit down, shut up, and leave your hands to yourself. And that's how we operate down there. Except for that, it's a wonderful day. It's a wonderful view, except for the couple of oil decks that are out there. But it's a beautiful day. By us being where we are, we're at the end of the beach, right before you go around the corner to where the protected seal rookery is. There's an area there in Carpinteria off the state park that people are not allowed to, so that the seals can come up in the spring season and have their pups. And so by us being where we are, we tend to be an unofficial barrier. People will walk down the beach, people love to walk down the beach. They get down to us, they go, oh my God, nudist. They turn around and walk backwards. And therefore, they never get past us to disturb the seals. So as I tell it to the city council members, we do a public service by being there. We protect the seals. And they buy that argument. They go, oh yeah, thank you very much for being there. So it's a live and let live world. And that's the world that we've built. And so far it's working.
That sounds like so much work. Like you're involved with all these government agencies and protecting the people in your group and have all these standards. Like it sounds like so much work.
People shouldn't have to see the man behind the curtain. They should be able to go down there, enjoy the day, and think everything's wondering. But the truth is that in this world, there's no such thing as not having the man behind the curtain, and I'm that man. I do have a steering committee of about 10 people who I've delegated the stuff I do, because I did this all myself until a couple of years ago, and I've got to the point where I really like to just enjoy the beach and not have to be in charge. My knees are not very good anymore, and I have a lot of trouble walking across the sand. That's just old age kicking in. But I have a steering committee of younger people who are taking over a lot of these responsibilities. I'm teaching them about the politics of it. Most people can't stand politics, but I keep trying to convince them that it's an integral part of why we're here, and you have to learn this. And so we will see where that goes. If they start neglecting that, they will put the whole project in danger. But and I think most of them understand that intellectually. But getting themselves up out of the chair or off their towel and actually going to a meeting, which usually are very boring, but to go to a meeting and have your face be seen and talk to somebody after the meeting, shake their hand, say hi. I'm Gary from Friends of Bates Beach. I'm here to remind you that we have a nude beach down there, and we're taking care of it. We're self-policing and all this stuff, and they need to be able to get involved with that stuff. They have to learn the political speech, and they will. You know, if the politicians have politics hasn't died after that 1776. There's always another generation that will take over, and so there'll be another generation here also. Politics will never go away as long as we're a democracy. Um, uh, they do talk me out of some of my more cockeyed ideas, but which is, in retrospect, I said, I'm sure glad you talked me out of that. But we've got signage down there. Let me see what we got there. We have a sign that says, there's the camera. Entry for the
Yeah.
optional area. It looks like an official city sign on purpose with our website at the bottom. People don't ever read the bottom. They just see the sign and go, oh, it must be official. And I go, fine with me. And on the other side of the sign, of course, it says no nudity beyond this point, so that people don't go walking the other direction. And that's always there at the beach when we are there. And that seems to keep people from walking into areas they shouldn't be walking. So that's kind of how it works. You were asking me about $2 bills before, right? Earlier?
Yeah, that's going to be my next question.
That's
You
the
talked about the
question.
government side. What's the $2 bill campaign?
All right. There's I don't know if you can see this up here. There's a card, support our $2 bill campaign, and it talks about the beach and what we're all about. And on the other side is a card that says help us restore the beach legally. And what we do is I stole this from an idea that they had in Florida about 20 years ago for during a Nude Recreation Week, which is always the second week in July, celebrated by the American Association for Nude Recreation. They always go into town spending $2 bills for the restaurants and for buying things, just to show everybody in town how many nudists there are and how wide support it's got. And I said, good idea. So we didn't do it the last year or two, obviously, because of the COVID shuts downs. But we actually we went to the bank and got a couple $100 worth of $2 bills. People traded in their 20s for my twos, and then they went into different restaurants. This is usually after the beach, or sometimes on designated days. Um, we all went to different restaurants, so it wasn't all at one restaurant. Ate their meal. Were polite. We don't want to be assholes in front of. That defeats the whole thing. Does that have to be edited out? Okay, you can go bleep on it. Um, and at the end of the day, when we leave a tip in $2 bills, and we leave a card that says, "Please don't put this in your pocket. Please distribute it as change, and support our $2 bill campaign." And the first little bit of time, people go, "Oh, a $2 bill is this great? I'm going to save this." And so they disappear into people's wallets. The second time in the restaurant, oh, I already got one. I don't need one again. Um, and then they start giving them out as change, and the person gets it. Oh, a $2 bill. I'm going to keep this. And by the third or fourth time through, it's I've okay, been there, done that, and they start using it themselves as currency when they start buying things. And after you've done it enough times, the whole town is floating with $2 bills, and everybody's giving it as change. And since everybody knows it's support for the nudist beach, even though these are non-nudist, we've magnified our importance and our significance because nobody knows that this person using the $2 bill is a nudist or not. And so it looks like there's a lot more nudists than there really are. Now there are a lot of nudists, but this makes it look really, really big. And we've done that for many, many years. It helped us with the chamber, it helped us with the merchants, and it is a sincere attempt. Of course, with COVID and all the restaurants shutting down, we haven't been able to really do it the last year, but we have plans to go back and do it this year. The other times we do it, we have two big events in Carpinteria that we were invited to because of our presence. One is the annual Independence Day Parade, which isn't always on Independence Day. Sometimes it's the Saturday before. And they have a little parade in town with all the Carpinterians of the year and the local fire department and the local dump truck and the local drill team, and they march down Linden Avenue, which is about a mile long, and everybody comes to town and waves, and we wave back. And there's always a reviewing stand where they announce what's going on, and I give them a paragraph saying, and in this truck are the nudists from Friends of Bates Beach, and people go, the first little bit of time is always they're what they're what they say. What was that, Gladys? What did she say? After a while, after a couple of years, they got, oh yeah, there they are again. We always decorate the truck in a beach theme with beach chairs and beach balls and red, white, and blue bunting and stuff like that. And I'm always wearing a lei around my neck and look a little Hawaiian. And we put on a Beach Boy boom box in the box, so we've got it's beach music, and everybody knows we are who we are. And the announcer always makes a big deal about this. Always makes some wisecrack, obviously. So, oh my God, they're all dressed, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, fine. I've heard it a million times. Um, but to add a little spice to it, we a couple of years ago we decided to invest in a couple of hundred beach balls with our name and website on it. And in the area where we are collecting before the parade starts, I went around and handed uninflated beach balls to the guys in the football team and to the drill teams and the other marching bands. And of course, they had nothing else to do, so they blew it up and they bounced it around before the parade started. Hey, this is a lot of fun. And a lot of them took it with them onto the parade. So we had Bates Beach beach balls bouncing around through the whole parade as a little extra PR. Worked great. The other at that event, before that event, we used $2 bills to go down and buy our lunches and buy ice cream cones and buy little trinkets that they're selling on the side streets to increase the visibility of the $2 bills at this major event, because there's 5,000 people at the parade. The other event we do is the Carpinteria Avocado Festival, which is one of the biggest avocado festivals in California. It's done the first weekend in October, and there's 100,000 people come down to about 400 booths. They close off Linden Avenue, and they've got these booths lining both sides of the road. And half of it is food that must have avocado as an ingredient. They got avocado beer, avocado ice cream, avocado chop suey. You name it, they got avocados in it, and it's a wonderful event. The other half are the merchants. Some of them are nonprofits like us, and some of them are selling T-shirts and signs. That's where I got this sign behind me that says "Nude Nude Beach ahead," or whatever it says. I can't read it backwards behind me, but we get you get things like that, and people go off and buy those things, and we have an information booth. At the information booth, we always do a little poll because we have a little game wheel, and we do prizes for a raffle for beach towels, and there's actually a grand prize of 3 days, 3 nights at the nudist resort that sometimes people use and sometimes they don't. But we have to fill out a little card saying fill out your name for the raffle, but while you're here, do you approve of the idea of the nude beach at Bates? Yes or no? And so at the end of the weekend, we add all this stuff up, and then we see what the results are. The results are always like 75 to 80% of the people there are in favor of it. So I compile all that stuff, and I send a nice letter to the supervisors and to the city council and the parks department and the police chief and say, here's what your local people say. So everybody supports us there, so leave us alone. And it adds a reinforcement to their decision to let us be there. So all that kind of works. While we're there for the 3 days, we are spending $2 bills to buy our food and to buy our other junk around at the thing. The other thing I do is the Carpinteria High School cheerleaders always have a fundraiser there. They're selling food or doing something, and the Alliance club is there, and a Kiwanis is there, and they're selling things. And I walk around and say, would you like some change? Because people are always giving them $20 bills or more, and they never have change to hand out to people. I said, let me give you a stack of $2 bills. You can use as change, and I'll take your 20s from you. Oh, yeah, great. So now they have $2 bills to hand out to people, and they then spend them around. So again, it magnifies the effect. So, am I devious as a marketing person? Yes, but marketing 101 is to get yourself known in a positive way, and that's what we're doing. So it sounds a little off the wall, but that is the infrastructure behind that keeps bait speech as friendly and calm and as legal as we can get it. Um,
Nice.
I guess that's the long answer to your question, but um,
Is the $2 bill thing just for Bates Beach, or is this like, because you said other beaches that they've got you in other cities? Like, is this something everybody does?
they do it in Florida again once a year. Interestingly enough, the other beaches don't do it, and that's only because they just don't have the will. I guess the leaders there say, "Oh, that's too much work," or something. They did a survey down at Black's Beach about 10 years ago to say that it brings about $21 million into the local San Diego economy for people who are tourists down there and come down for the beach and they stay in the hotels and they go to SeaWorld and all the other stuff. Brings in about $21 million that the city otherwise would not get. And I said, look, guys, we ought to be reinforcing that. And the Black Beach people go, no, that's too much trouble. We get 10,000 people down here anyway, so we don't need to do that. They go, the day may come when the police come down and sweep, and you'll be totally without any political support. You need to support yourself. Um, but that's how we lose beaches: is the beach people get too complacent and they don't pay attention to what's happening behind them, and then they get shut down and they have no way to protect themselves. So we're trying to keep this infrastructure in place here, regardless of what the other beaches do. Hullover does it down in Florida, not all the time, but they do it in town. They get tourists from all over Europe, so I guess they have to cash in their $2 bills at the exchange desk in order to go back to Europe. But I don't know what those people say. Is that, oh my God, where'd all these $2 bills come from? But I do know that they do it down there. There was some talk they were going to do it in New Jersey at Gunnison Beach. I haven't heard if they actually went through with that or not. But the other beaches don't seem to really have the sense of, why should I work for this when I have my beach and I'm happy? So they may see this video in 5 years and go, oh, good idea. And if they do, great. I won't even ask for royalties. Just do what you got to do.
All right. So for those who haven't been to the Nude Beach before, who are hearing about all this and going, well, at least I want to check it out. How do people find a nude beach where they are if they're not near Bates Beach?
Well, as I said earlier, the internet's not accurate. It's old information. It may not be up to date on what the legal situation is, or even the people, or even if the place has been closed. The main problem we have is the fact that we're overpopulated. They need new housing, and there's a lot of millions of dollars to be made by developers who put houses up with ocean views. They can make $10 million on an individual house, and that's the zoning above the beaches we have to be careful of. Pirates Cove has that problem up in San Luis Obispo. They have a relationship with the Coastal Commission and with the county parks. That actually is a legal beach, but the homeowners above are not happy. And every once in a while, they will close the gates to the trail that takes you down to the beach. And then we have to go to court to say, they got to open this up. It's not legal. There's been a few times that the Coastal Commission even came up and said, we're going to fine you people if you don't reopen it. So those things are going on. So people who are looking for nude beaches won't know about that. They don't until they get there. The other problem we have is we don't really want a lot of publicity, because too much publicity brings in the element that doesn't want to follow behavior guidelines, or the lewd element that everybody fears we all are. So you want to keep it discreet and manageable, but still popular. And there's a sweet spot for that. So the best place to answer your question is to go to look at our website at www.friendsofbatesbeach.org. Crass plug there. Southern California Naturist Association also has a good website with a whole travel section that lists travel information about all the beaches and other locations in Southern California. Anner has a decent site That's www.aanr.com. They have a decent site that's fairly up to date on all the clubs, the landing, not a beach such, but the places you can go to that are actually legal clubs that are private property. There's walls and fences and stuff, but you can be nude within their property and within their guidelines. And then there's the Nature Society has uh, a good website. They focus on hot springs, hiking trails, and things like that. So you need to go to really good sources that update their information. The other thing you do is word of mouth. The bad news about it is that people get on Twitter, they say, hey, I went to a nude beach down at so and so. It's a great place. Let's go. And then 10 million people know about the place. And then you'll get people who are there for the wrong reason, or otherwise will tell the police we're down there, hey, this is a terrible blight on the morality of our country. You need to do something about it. So you don't want to track that. So we try to stay off of Twitter, although there is a pretty good Twitter nudist element up there, but we don't give directions up there. And right now, Hawaii, for example, there's a big fight to try and close Little Beach, which is one of the most popular beaches for the last 50 years. And it just got overpopulated. On weekends, they brought their drumming circles down, and nobody wore masks. And the parks director used the COVID excuse to close it down as a dangerous place because of the possibility of spreading the viruses. And they put fences up and signs up, and nudity is no longer allowed on the beach. Interestingly enough, it has nothing to do with the COVID, but he found that as the excuse to close the beach. So our popularity can be our undoing. So the answer is use your head when you tell the people that you found a nude beach. Be sure they're there for the right reason. Be sure they don't post it anywhere where it's going to attract a bazillion people. And that's kind of how we survive today. That's how you find it. And you can always send us email, and we'll tell you what the current situation is. I get phone calls 2 or 3 times a week from friends at Bates Beach. Somebody says, what's the situation at the beach? Or I've heard about this, what's going on? And I'll give them 10 minutes on it as to exactly where you go on the beach, where you shouldn't stand on the beach, and what your behavior guidelines should be. And they're always grateful for that. I've never heard of anybody being arrested, so I guess the information was correct. But that's the kind of stuff you have to be aware of. The beaches are very, very open to everybody's individual lifestyle. I mean, the gay community is down there, and the trans community is down there. Everybody's down there, and it's live and let live. Where the danger comes is when people start doing things they shouldn't be doing. If there are sometimes gay people who come down there as couples and will decide they want to have sex on the beach, and we have to stop them because by doing so they endanger the survival ability of the entire beach. Sometimes they get angry. On the other hand, most of them say, "Oh, I didn't know." One thing I have found that when I discover people who are doing the wrong things, the last thing they want to do is have somebody stand over them and say hello, and be discovered. They tend to go, oh, nope, I wasn't doing that. Nope, you didn't see that. And they will pack up and they will leave, and you solve the problem. The discovery is the great way to self-police. But sometimes you can get too many people, so it's a danger. So to everybody here who's going to be watching this video, you have a responsibility. If you come down to the beach, there's a lot of things you have to do to make sure that beach remains, if you like it. That we all have to pitch in and act. At Bates Beach, the last 5 years, we pretty much have all told that line, followed the rules, and everybody seems to be okay with it. So that's kind of the answer to your question, I think.
No, and I like that you're reiterating that this is about treating it with respect, treating each other with respect, and making sure that it doesn't turn into this big party scene, because that's not what these communities are about.
No, and it'll kill it. It'll kill it for everybody.
Yeah. So I think this will be my last question for you. How can people, you've already told us about the $2 bill campaign as a way people could be involved. What other ways can people get involved in protecting Bates Beach and beaches like it?
Well, get involved. A lot of us are using our own money to do this, and I'm retired now, and that's no longer fun. We do have a $10 membership for Friends of Bates Beach that goes in the pot to cover the cost of the avocado booth, the website, and the newsletter, um, and sometimes gasoline to get to places. It's not enough. We still have to subsidize it ourselves, but um, any donations are gratefully accepted of any donation with of any denomination at all. We have an online petition through our website. We'd like to be able to go to the county and say, look, I got 100,000 people on this petition. We'd like to have us discuss the legality of it. But if I don't have 100,000 people, there's no way they're going to pay attention to us. But there is a petition on online that you can find through our website, and we ask everybody to sign it. It is fairly anonymous. We don't know who you are by name or by email, so we can't contact you. Um, to get more involved, we have a monthly online meetup. Meetup.com is an online service where once a week we get together on like this by video conference. It's open to anybody. Sometimes we'll get 6, 7 people. Sometimes we'll get 20. It depends on the time of the year and what's going on. And we'll talk about the issues like we just talked about here in this video. Any particular questions people may have. A lot of them are brand new. They haven't gone to the beach yet, and they want to know all about it before they go down, which I think is fair. We also have a monthly live dinner meeting in Ventura. COVID's kind of causing problems with that, but the Denny's restaurant up on Telegraph Road, we do once a month. The location and the times and dates are up on our website, and we meet there and talk for 2 hours. The same thing in person. The steering committee is there, and we make policy decisions. And anybody who wants to come and pay for their own dinner and hear what's going on and get literature about upcoming events, things like that, we have that there. And it's closed. It's in a restaurant on purpose so that you don't have to feel obligated to be undressed, because some people aren't ready. They just want to know information. A lot of the people are checking it out before their spouse doesn't want to come down. And so one spouse or the other comes and says, I want to know more about this before I go back and tell my spouse it's safe to go down. And that's what that meeting is for. The other option is just, if you're ready, just come down to the beach. It is a clothing optional beach, which means you don't have nudity required. You can go down there and be the only one dressed if you want. The rest of us are going to be undressed, and you'll have to just put up with the fact that we're all overweight, we're all old, and none of us look like Bo Derek. And as long as you don't mind that, we're just like normal people. We just enjoy the sensuality of the sun and the water without our clothes. You're welcome to join us. It is kind of that reverse nightmare of people say of speaking in front of people and you're naked in front of a bunch of people. This is the reverse nightmare where you're the only one dressed in a room full of naked people. And it's the same effect. People feel very, very self-conscious being the only one dressed. Like everybody's looking at me. No, we're not looking at you. This is in your own mind. I have a daughter who did that. She stayed in her bathing suit up at Elysium back 30 years ago. And she said, people are always looking at me. She said, well, you're about the only one dressed. And so, yeah, they're looking at you, but they're respecting you. The problem's in your own head. And after some trip, she finally got out of her bathing suit and joined everybody else. Said, wow, this is really great. Why didn't I do this before? And I hear that all the time. People always say, why didn't I do this before? But she says, they're not looking at me anymore. I said, no, why? You're not different than anybody else. There's this sense of I don't want to say sterility, but there's a sense of conformity, of the sameness, and all that disappears, and you blend in with everybody else, and nobody cares. The sexuality is always comes from bathing suits. Bathing suits are very sexual because you're always wondering what's under the bathing suit. As soon as you get that answer done, you go, oh God, she looks just like everybody else. She's got 2 breasts, and she's got a vagina, and he's got a penis, and okay, fine. They're not Martians, so let's just move on with our life. But there's that little 10 minutes of terror newcomers have on the beach. They took the clothes off and say, oh my God, they're all looking at me. I'm too fat, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too whatever. And then in 5 minutes, you realize nobody's looking, and you go, and then you get mad. You say, "God damn it, I'm having an anxiety attack. Why aren't they looking at me?" And then you realize it's all in your head, and then you go in the water, and everything's fine. But everybody goes through that the first time. You're not in your head. Yes, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And
Yep.
there's always that first little bit of time, and then you realize it's all in your head, and it's fine, and just enjoy the experience. So I do welcome everybody to give it a try. If it's on your bucket list, I don't want you to get to be 90 years old on your deathbed and say, "Gee, I wish I'd gone to a nude beach." Do it while you're young. Do it while you have knees, and enjoy the experience. Or if you don't, at least you can say, "I did it. That's fine for somebody else, not me." And you can go on with your other bucket list items, like jumping out of an airplane with a parachute or something, like whatever you have got on your life list of things. Visiting Istanbul or something. But at least we know we're on everybody's bucket list, and we give you an opportunity to enjoy that, at least to experience it. And I hope this has been educational for your viewers.
Me too. And I have to say that the Friends of Beach website, it includes all of this information. It is such a great spot to get educated, to get connected, to find that community. So definitely, I would encourage my listeners to go and check out the Friends of Beach and all the work that they do, and go check out a nude beach. It's really worth it, and it's an experience that's very safe in COVID times, and there's nothing quite like it, like going and sunbathing and being with other people, and like you said, like being able to let go of that anxiety and some of like the self-judgments that we put on our own bodies.
Yeah, the book was written about 20 years ago called Bowling Alone, and it says we're a very social culture. Nobody bowls alone. Nobody golfs alone. They always want to do it and share it with friends. And so if you're feeling a little nervous, bring a friend who's also adventurous. If you feel you have to go by yourself the first time, I understand. But it's best shared. And hopefully you will decide to do it with a group of people for security, safe, until you get down there and realize it was all in my head, and I'm fine. But it's up to you. I hope I see you down there. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. As always, if you enjoyed the show, got something out of it, please like and subscribe. It helps people to find this channel and get this information. And until next time, everyone, love you more. Thank you so much for hanging out for this whole episode, the longest episode yet. I think there was a lot of really good information in here. Gary is just this great expert for everything going on in not sex positive spaces, but nude spaces, and just dropped a lot of great resources here. If you want to go deeper on this conversation and connect with community, I highly recommend that you come on over to my Patreon, which right now I have an option that's just $1 subscription. Over the next few weeks, I'm about 1 week into a 6-week challenge where I am releasing a video every single day. Stuff that I'm just not quite confident enough to put on YouTube, but it's rich with information about sex positivity, and happy to do like some Q&A and stuff like that. Just really finding my feet as a YouTuber. So if you are willing, just please come over, check out the Patreon. And until next time, love you more.